Good morning, and thank you all for coming. I'm New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. I'm joined here today by San Francisco District Attorney George Gascón, and also, and I want to especially thank her for being here, Annie Boken, who doesn't just show up, but has shown tremendous courage and leadership in this effort to make smartphones safe. She lost her sister Megan in a violent smartphone theft, and I greatly appreciate her dedication and her family's dedication to this cause. And I am also joined by Richard Aborn, the head of the Citizens Crime Commission, who since the beginning has been an important ally of ours in our fight to end the epidemic of smartphone theft. 1 year ago, we stood at this podium as George and I launched the Secure Our Smartphones initiative. It was an unprecedented national and now international response to the wave of smartphone thefts that was plaguing cities and towns all across America. When we stood here a year ago, we were facing an epidemic that was growing. In fact, the numbers for 2013 of smartphone thefts and assaults associated with smartphone thefts were significantly higher than the year before. More than 3 million mobile devices were stolen in the United States in 2013. Cities around the world were reporting spikes in violent thefts of smartphones. Almost half of the robberies in New York, San Francisco, and London in 2013 involved a mobile device. Innocent people were being assaulted. Some of them were even killed by robbers trying to get their phones. The New York Police Department, the NYPD, had to create a special unit to deal specifically with smartphone thefts. And as we've explained, and as I think you know, smartphones were an attractive target because they're easy to steal, easy to strip of the data, to clean and make as though they were a new phone, and to fence and sell in black markets all over the world, in some cases for twice or 3 times the price the phone would get in the United States. We were initially told by many in the industry that nothing could be done. Companies that invented technologies that have changed our lives and our societies in previously unimaginable ways were telling us they lacked the capability to install kill switches on smartphones so that our phones could be canceled the way you'd cancel a credit card. But we knew better, and we started organizing, and now 1 year later, I'm proud to say that the Secure Our Smartphones initiative has made tremendous progress and that we are closing down this crime wave of smartphone theft. Without a doubt, our work is not done, but as the Secure Our Smartphones annual report, which we are releasing today, shows, we have made incredible progress in the last year. First, George and I got on the phone, Richard and others, and we got more than 100 mayors, law enforcement officials, and elected officials to join the coalition, as well as public safety experts, consumer advocates. They've all joined the S.O.S coalition to pressure the industry to help end these violent crimes by installing kill switches. Today, the smartphone industry uniformly acknowledges that its wonderful products have been driving an international crime wave. That may not seem like much, but that change in attitude has opened the door to great possibilities. When we started our campaign, most of the industry rejected outright the idea of a kill switch. They said the technology was impossible. They said it wouldn't do any good. Hardware makers blamed the software makers and vice versa. But we kept the legislation moving. We kept the public campaign on. In several states, legislation has actually passed, one or both houses of the legislature mandating, and Minnesota has mandated that you can't sell a smartphone in Minnesota without a kill switch. In Congress, we got legislation introduced that would have had imposed a national ban on selling smartphones without kill switches. And Apple, to its credit, responded first. Apple started putting activation locks on its iPhones last September, and preliminary crime statistics, as spelled out in our annual report, show that in the first 5 months of 2014, after Apple rolled out what they call their activation lock, thefts of Apple products fell 16% in New York City from the same period the previous year, while thefts of Samsung smartphones and others increased a whopping 51%. In the 6 months after Apple introduced activation lock, phone thefts fell 24% in London and 38% in San Francisco when compared to the 6 months before activation lock came out. Meanwhile, thefts of other popular mobile devices increased, and you can see the statistics here. These are three very different jurisdictions, London, New York, and San Francisco. This shows a consistent pattern, and we do know from anecdotal information that has been conveyed to us by the New York Police Department, perpetrators have been acknowledging the fact that they realized that iPhones were less attractive devices to sell, because when you have a kill switch, they're stealing something that they know is going to soon be a paperweight and have no resale value. So our argument has been validated that it is possible to deter thefts by installing kill switches to save lives, to prevent assaults, and the rest of the industry is coming around. In fact, the CTIA, the wireless industry trade group that was adamantly opposed to kill switch technology a year ago, has announced a smartphone anti-theft voluntary commitment, a pledge to implement kill switch technology that a number of manufacturers and providers have signed. Samsung, to their credit, was the second to roll out its own device called a reactivation lock, which provides a security feature that with widespread adoption could produce a drop in crime numbers just like Apple's did. And I'm pleased today to announce that Microsoft will be installing a kill switch type solution in the next release of its mobile operating system iOS, and Google, whose Android system is the most popular operating system in the world, will be including a kill switch anti-theft system in its next operating system release. That means that a kill switch will be incorporated into the three dominant smartphone operating systems, Android, iOS, and Windows Phone, which currently encompass 97% of smartphones in the United States. So we're moving towards the day when there will be no crime wave, when there will be no point in stealing a smartphone. That is due to the work and leadership, George, Annie, Richard, and the others who have joined our coalition over the last year. Since we stood here a year ago, the industry has completely reversed its stance, and I applaud their efforts, but there is still work to do. None of the security systems available now engage by default. In other words, they require users to opt in. Some criminals will continue targeting devices if they believe there's a significant chance that consumers have not opted in, but we are moving forward towards the day when these technologies will be installed on an opt-out basis, and thieves will know that there's just no point in stealing a smartphone. We look forward to the day when no one faces the threat of losing a loved one, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, or a child because someone wanted to get their smartphone. Those of us in the initiative will keep working until all smartphones are secured. And before I introduce my colleagues standing here, I want to say a few words for our Spanish-speaking audience. Este estudiado confirma que los hemos dicho, cuando el teléfono puede ser activado, los ladrones pierden interés. 5 meses después de Apple activó su función de bloqueo, el robo agravado disminuyó en 29%. Durante el mismo tiempo, el robo de teléfonos inteligentes de Samsung que no tienen un interruptor aumentó en más de 40%. And with that, I'd like to introduce a great colleague and someone who has been the national leader in the effort to stop this crime wave, San Francisco District Attorney George Gascón.
Eric, thank you. It's a real pleasure being here today, a year after we began this process, and thank you to the Vulcans and Richard. And I was not aware that you spoke Spanish, Eric. I'm very impressed. But, you know, let me take you through a little journey here, because I think it's important to put context here. And I want to begin by saying also that we need to thank you guys, because the media has played a tremendous role in public education in this area. You know, back in 2012, when I started talking to the industry and being in San Francisco, being right where Apple and Google and all these companies work, having early conversations about the need to put a kill switch technology into these systems that were creating a crime epidemic in our community and were leading in many cases to murders, became a tremendous area for the industry to draw the line and say, we're not going to do this. I was told that the technology was not possible today, even though I knew, having talked to industry insiders before I began the process, not only was the technology possible, but in many cases, it was around the corner. When we began talking about the need to have this technology, I was told that if the technology were to be possible, that it would probably create chaos and it would lead to the hacking of entire networks. I was told that it could affect national security. And then more recently, I was told that a victim of domestic violence may be precluded from dialing 911 if her aggressor would go out and lock her phone before he decided to assault her. You know, these are signs of an industry that has done everything that they can in order to protect profits over consumers, in order to protect profits over the well-being of the community. Thankfully, and it started with Apple, after fighting the concept of putting a kill switch, Apple came up with the first really workable solution in September. And as Eric pointed out, and the numbers are here to my left, we immediately saw a tremendous reduction on the suffering, not only economically, but the physical suffering of many victims as a result of a cell phone robbery. At the same time that we saw the reduction on the theft of iPhones, we saw an increase in other products. We also became aware late September of last year that there was a concerted effort by the carriers to preclude Samsung from putting this solution in their phones. And some of you carry that story. I say all this to say that while we're celebrating today, we have come a long way, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. In Sacramento, we have a bill in front of the Assembly, the Senate already passed, that would mandate kill switch technology in all phones. Minnesota, as Eric indicated, has already passed a bill, and we're hoping that there will be a national bill that would actually pass. But here's the problem that we face today as the industry is coming around and quote-unquote voluntarily making the solution available. And the problem is that there is still a fight over whether the technology should be pre-enabled. In other words, when you buy your phone, the technology will be there ready for you, and if you do not want to use it, you can simply turn it off, or whether you have to go in a scavenger hunt and figure out how to turn the technology on. I'm holding 2 iPhones here. I own both of them. One is at work, one is my personal one. On my personal one, I have activation lock. If a thief were to take this phone, I can turn it off, I can protect my data, and this becomes a piece of paperweight. This one does not have activation lock, and I purposely done that today for your purpose. The problem is a thief can't tell which of these phones is protected and which is not. Therefore, even though I may be walking around having my phone protected, there are many of us that are not. And for a thief, it's just a matter of odds. I can rob enough people, and I'm still going to have the opportunity and the likelihood that one of those phones will be marketable. And so long as that is occurring, the fact that I have this one protected, this one still creates an unsafe environment. Many people, certainly people of my age, but even a lot younger people, do not know. They're not tech savvy enough to know how to turn this technology on. It is for that reason that we are saying not only does the technology has to be available, but the technology has to be universally applied. And if I, as a consumer, decide not to use the technology, then I can turn it off. You know, this is an industry that talks about being cool. They're always coming up with cool solutions, identifying new problems, and coming with a cool solution to fix the problem. What could be coolest than ensuring that we do not have another family, as the Vulcan family, have to talk about the death of a loved one over a telephone? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about millions of people getting hurt worldwide because an industry has refused to do the right thing in the way that needs to be done. So one of the calls today is not only that we need a legislative solution, but I'd like to urge the industry. The technology is here now. We know that you have it. We appreciate the fact that you have done everything that it takes to put it in. Now make it universally available and don't make people hunt for it. Muy rápidamente para los que hablan español, hoy quiero primero que nada darle las gracias a mi colega Eric Schneiderman y a la familia Vulcan y a Richard Abram que están aquí. Un año atrás estuvimos aquí en esta misma habitación hablando del problema, de la epidemia de crimen que había en nuestra comunidad, el sufrimiento que estaba causando los robos de estos aparatos que yo tengo aquí en la mano. Y hoy estamos aquí para decir dos cosas. Primero que nada, para celebrar que la industria ha empezado a proveer la tecnología necesaria para poder proteger al consumidor y cuando uno de estos teléfonos está robado, poder apagar ese teléfono y quitarle el valor al teléfono. Pero también queremos decir que todavía la industria no está haciendo todo lo que tiene que hacer. Nosotros necesitamos que esta tecnología sea aplicada universalmente y que el consumidor, cuando tenga uno de estos teléfonos, sepa que ellos pueden protegerse inmediatamente. Y le estamos pidiendo a la industria y le estamos pidiendo a todos los líderes de nuestra comunidad que nos ayuden a hacer eso una realidad hoy. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce someone whose family has been courageous and really has provided incredible leadership in this whole effort, Annie Boken.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Annie Boken, and I'm here today to talk about my sister Megan Boken, who at the age of 23 was shot and killed by a thief who wanted to steal her iPhone. I want to say thank you to Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, San Francisco District Attorney George Gascón, and Richard Abram, head of the Citizens Crime Commission, for their leadership on this very important issue. August 18th, 2012 is the day that my life changed forever. That day, my sister Megan was walking down the street in St. Louis while talking on her iPhone. She was away from home, and she called our mom to check in while she was on the way to her car. During the conversation, the call dropped suddenly, and Megan never picked up the phone again. Megan was targeted by a thief who was canvassing the neighborhood and looking for someone to rob. When he saw Megan's white iPhone, he decided that she would be the target of the robbery. He approached Megan as she got into the car, and when the thief couldn't get to her phone, he shot her twice. This all happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in a busy neighborhood on a beautiful sunny day in August. I got involved in this initiative because I want people to remember that this is more than just an intellectual problem. My sister Megan is not the only person who has lost her life over a smartphone, and many others have been gravely injured. The epidemic of smartphone theft isn't just costing consumers money. As I can attest, there is a very real human cost to these crimes. My sister Megan lived a very full life, and she had so many great things ahead of her. She played volleyball for the Billikens at St. Louis University, where she was a 4-year starter and a leader on her team, serving as team captain her senior year. Megan was very hardworking and a fierce competitor, but you might not guess it upon first meeting her. She had a sweet, fun-loving disposition that charmed everyone she met. Megan had a lot of personality, which naturally spilled over into the digital world. Even though Megan and I lived in different cities, we were in constant contact thanks to our iPhones. She often texted me pictures of random things that made her laugh, like obnoxious vanity license plates or kids' sidewalk chalk drawings that she happened to pass on the street. She was always the first person to call me on my birthday. She was also a pioneer of selfies. She loved surprising her friends with incredibly awkward or goofy pictures of herself that were guaranteed to make you laugh. Megan was the kind of person you could always count on to brighten your day. When Megan was killed for her phone, she was doing something that all of us probably do on a daily basis. We rely on our smartphones to keep us in constant contact with friends and loved ones, no matter where we are or what we're doing. What happened to Megan could happen to anyone. The safety of our loved ones and the safety of our communities is at stake here. When I first stood here 1 year ago at the launch of the S.O.S. initiative, I hoped that by sharing Megan's story, I could prevent someone else from becoming a victim of these senseless crimes. It's incredible that just 1 year later, we now have data showing that the kill switch is already proving to be an effective deterrent against violent thefts. We know that it works, and we know that it will save lives. I personally and the Boken family will continue to fight until the kill switch is a default feature on every smartphone. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce someone who is a leader in criminal justice reform policies in our city, in our state, and nationally, and a great ally in building the Secure Our Smartphone Coalition, the head of the Citizens Crime Commission, Richard Aborn.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks. You know, in the public advocacy realm, you're more often measured by your tenacity than by your results, because it's pretty tough out there. This sort of turns that on its head, and I just cannot thank enough and applaud enough Eric's leadership and George's leadership in being willing to step up to the plate into an arena that nobody thought would accomplish anything, thought there'd be one press conference and it would go away. And here we are a year later with some very substantial results. That's political leadership, that's political courage, and they've gotten something for their constituencies and, frankly, constituencies far beyond their city and beyond their state. I think there are two other points that probably need to be made. One is there's an enormous amount of discussion that technology in our country and around the world moves very rapidly. This is living proof that technological reform can also move very rapidly. And I think the second point, which is probably more poignant and has a longer-term application, is that anyone in law enforcement, and George was with the LAPD for years, anyone in law enforcement will tell you that technology in many ways is supporting police now in a way that is almost a game changer. It is just leveraging the power of police in ways that are unimaginable and are changing every single day. I think this is the next evolution in the use of technology in the public safety arena. Because here's an application of technology to directly stop criminal offending. And I hope this is just the beginning of that use of technology. Because if what Apple has done and what some of the other companies are promising to do works the way it looks like it's working, and I think it will continue to work, we are on the dawn of a new era in using technology to fight crime. And that's really to be applauded. So for all of those reasons, I think this is a day to celebrate. I think the right coalition came together under the right leadership. There was plenty of tenacity there, and here we are today with real results that are not just numbers, but they are lives saved and people who are not victims of crime today who otherwise would have been. So thank you all very much.